Hi, in this talk, I'm going to be discussing about the Aginor USD stablecoin, also known as the Ergo USD stablecoin, because it pegs USD to Ergo, the Ergo's base currency, the ERG. And in this talk, I'm going to be giving you a high-level overview of the smart contracts used in the stablecoin. And this is joint work by Ergo, IOG, and Emergo. So what exactly are we trying to achieve in this stablecoin? This slide gives you a high-level overview of the concept behind the stablecoin and the goals that we want. So it doesn't have anything to do with Ergo or UTXO. It is the same if we would implement this in Ethereum, for example. So what exactly is a stablecoin that we want? Yeah. So it is trying to emulate a centralized bank, and this bank holds three assets. The first of them is the stablecoin tokens, which are issued by the bank. The second is the reserve coin tokens, which are also issued by the bank. And the third is the base currency, which is the currency of the underlying blockchain, such as ERG, the native token of Ergo, or Bitcoin or Ethereum. So in this talk, I'm going to be assuming that the base currency is ERG, and everything is going to be in terms of ERG, from now onwards. So the bank is supposed to allow two kinds of exchanges between itself and the people, right? And these are the SC exchange, where we exchange SC with the base currency. So bank will either take or receive stablecoin tokens and give or receive base currency, right? Similarly, the other exchange is the reserve coin exchange, where the bank and the users will exchange reserve coin and the base currency. So these two exchanges need to have the rate. So the rate is defined as follows. So SC rate is the rate at which the stablecoin is going to be exchanged, either purchased or redeemed. So what this means is how many in the base currency do we need to pay for one stablecoin. So the units will be ERG per stablecoin. Similarly, we have the RC rate, which is how many of the base currency do we have to spend to get one RC token. The units will be ERG per RC. Finally, we have something called the peg rate, which says how many of the base currency do we have to exchange for one US dollar, where US dollar is the currency that we want to peg to, right? So the units will be in ERG per USD, right? So where do we get this peg rate from? Because the other rates we can understand, but the peg rate is something that has to come externally, because the US dollar is not in the bank's control, right? So the peg rate is coming from an external source. And the goal of the stablecoin is what? The goal of the stablecoin should be that the SC rate is as close as possible to the peg rate. As close to the ratio of SC rate to peg rate should be as close to 1. So it can be slightly higher or lower. So it can be, for example, 0.009, 0.99 something, or it can be 1.001. It can be very close. It need not be the same. In fact, it will not be the same many times, but it should be very close to the peg rate. And that is what we want the goal of the stablecoin to be. So SC rate should be as close to the peg rate, ideally the same as the peg rate. So we should be able to exchange SC tokens for ERGs at the same rate as which the ERG and USD can be exchanged on some other external exchange, or via some external source, the rate that we receive. And RC, the reserve coin, is an additional token, right? Used to handle fluctuations. So many times the ERG USD rate will go high and low, but we still want to keep the SC pegged to the USD. So the RC will be used to handle the fluctuations. It's kind of a shock absorber. So I'm not going to go into the details of how the stability works here, because that is covered in a separate talk. Here I'm just going to discuss how the stablecoin, as the algorithm we define, is going to be implemented on top of Ergo. So as I discussed, there are two rates that we need for the exchange to happen, right? One is the SC rate, the rate at which one SC can be exchanged in terms of ERGs. So this needs three inputs. The algorithm needs three data inputs, three data to calculate this. three pieces of data. So the first input is the current base currency reserve that we have, denoted by B. So it will be the amount of ERGs held by the bank. The second input is the amount of stable coins in circulation, so called S. It will be the total number of stable coins held by the people, stablecoin tokens that have been purchased from the bank. Yeah. Minus the stable coins that have been redeemed. Yeah. So it will be the actual stable coins in circulation, not the actual purchased ones, but the purchased minus the redeemed ones. And finally, we also need the ERG USD rate from an external source denoted by E. Yeah. So this is the three pieces of information we need for computing SC rate, and let this be given by some function f. Yeah. So there's an algorithm that takes input these three pieces and then returns the SC rate. Similarly, RC rate is determined using four parameters. The first parameter is the current base currency reserve as before, which is denoted as B. The second is the SC in circulation, denoted as which is the same value as before. The third value is the reserve coins in circulation, which is similar to the SC in circulation but now applied to reserve coins, and we denote this by R. The fourth value is the rate, external rate, E, that we used earlier as well. Yeah, and then the RC rate is determined using a formula given by algorithm G, which takes as input these four values. So a little bit more detail, this SC rate, how it is actually implemented. So here we have a function that returns SC rate. It takes us three inputs, as I said, B or base reserve, SC in circulation or S, and E in the previous slide, which was the external ERG USD rate, right, from an external source. And then it has this formula, which I will not discuss, but I'll just leave it there for a couple of seconds for you to see. And it computes the SC rate using this formula, and it returns that. Then the bank will use this rate to exchange the SC tokens. Similarly, I'll show you the formula for RC rates, the rate at which the bank exchanges RC tokens. And as you can see, it takes four inputs and then outputs the rate, yeah, what we need. So without going into details, which I'll refer you to the earlier other talks and the documentation to actually understand the details of the formula, why it is like that. I'll just assume that this is the formula we have to implement without understanding why. So considering the previous slides, right, we need to get the rate from an external source called E in the previous slides. Yeah. We will also refer to this as the ERG USD rate. Yeah. And this must come from a reliable external source. So what is this external source, right? So in many blockchain implementations, this is done through oracles. So what is an oracle? Oracle is simply a trusted party that takes data from an external source and then posts it onto the blockchain at regular intervals. So this is something that a few blockchains have tried, but this concept of a single oracle has an inherent issue. It is the single point of failure, right? And you have to trust this oracle without any alternatives, right? Basically, you have no choice. You have to trust the oracle. So this leads to a few issues, right, which make this system not so reliable. So in Argo, we have the concept of oracle pools, which is taking the concept a bit further in terms of reliability. So oracle pool behaves like oracles. It posts data to the blockchain on regular intervals. The data is taken from an external source, but the difference is that the data is more reliable, right? So we have to trust the source of the data, the data posters less in this scenario. I'll get to that in a minute, how it works. So basically what it does is that instead of one party submitting the data, a number of parties submit their own data points. In this case, it will be the rate. And each of these parties is an oracle. And what the pool does is that it takes the average of all the rates and then uses that as the data point to publish on the blockchain. Yeah, in this case, the ERG USD rate. And each rate must be within a max deviation, right? So you can't have like the oracles post very extreme rates, right? One oracle cannot post 10 and the other oracle posts 20. So it has to be within a very small margin of error, each of them. And then there are some other checks, right? Like the rate must be fresh. You cannot use an old rate. Yeah? It must be posted within the last, say, 6 hours or so. So without going into details how it works, I'll refer you to the Oracle pool documentation. This figure explains how the Oracle pools work in a very brief manner. So on the left side, you see that there are 5 oracles. They have posted data points. So this data point is some value which we don't care what it is. In this case, it is the value of US dollars for something. Yeah. So as long as they all understand that what units they are posting and the purpose of that, we don't care what that is. We just call it data points. And they may be slightly different, right? So the average is the finalized data point, which is what the pool will post on the blockchain. So this is showing one instance of taking the average, and the right side shows this happening multiple times. And the system is divided into 6 hours, phases of 6 hours, where the data points is posted. So approximately the Oracle pool will update its data point every 6 hours. And you can refer to this URL for more details on how this works. But for now, we'll assume that this is a reliable source of data because it is not just one but multiple source. And so even if certain sources are untrustworthy, the checks implemented will either ensure that the data point is not considered or its effect is very low in the final data point. So before we start discussing more about the Argo stablecoin, I'll quickly describe a few details about Argo itself, right, which is relevant to this talk. So this is needed to understand how the implementation is done, how the smart contracts work. So what is Argo? Argo is a UTXO based blockchain. It is basically similar to Bitcoin, for example, but a more advanced version of Bitcoin, you can say. And it has advanced DeFi features. So a few of them are listed here, but there are a few more. The first of them is ErgoScript, which is a advanced Scala-like programming language for writing the Guard scripts. And Guard scripts are also called smart contracts in UTXO-based blockchains. So ErgoScript, since it is taken from Scala, it also supports functional programming, which allows us to write very powerful contracts in a very compact way. The third feature that we have is that of secondary assets. So Argo supports secondary assets. Argo has the primary asset, which is the primary token called Erg. Yeah? It is the native token of Argo. And like Ethereum, Argo also supports secondary tokens, right? These can be issued in transactions, and they can be NFTs, which is non-fungible tokens, and ordinary tokens. Yeah? I'll get to that in the next few slides, what these means. The fourth feature is that Argo has a very rich context. The ErgoScript environment, execution environment, has a very rich context. So what is the context? Context is the information available to a program during execution. So in this case, it is the information available to the smart contract when it is spent. And this information can be normally in a standard blockchain, it will be the information of the UTXO itself, right? It will be all the information that is in the UTXO, at least. The contract should be able to access all the data within the UTXO. But Argo is slightly more advanced. It allows you to access the data of other UTXOs, right? But not every UTXO, the other UTXOs in the transaction, right? So Argo transaction consists of input, output, as we'll discuss later. So the ErgoScript program allows you to access the other inputs in a transaction, right? So you can say that the first input should be of this structure, the second input should be of so-and-so structure, and I should be the third input, and the first output should be so-and-so. You can specify all these conditions in the Guard script, right? And the script will evaluate to true only if all these conditions are satisfied in the spending transaction, right? So the context is quite rich. And this allows us to also design Turing complete programs on top of the Argo blockchain, right? So although not very efficient, but using this rich context and multiple boxes, we can have Turing complete scripts. This is just for information. It is not really useful in a practical sense. Uh, it also has some, Ergo also has some scalability features, right? So without too much details, since they are not relevant to this talk, it has something called the storage rent, which means that you can't kind of put junk on the blockchain, right? You must pay rent for storing something on the blockchain, right? So if a box stays on the blockchain unspent for more than 4 years, right, then a certain amount of native tokens, nanoworks, are deducted from the box. So a copy of the box is created, everything is preserved except the amount of ergs and the box ID. Yeah? Box ID will obviously change because the box is spent and a new box is created. So, this ensures that the blockchain junk eventually gets cleaned up over a long run. Yeah. So this is kind of automated garbage collection. Yeah, on the blockchain, and this allows also not only blockchain to be compact, but it also gives miners a steady flow of income. Right. They can always get income from the storage rent in addition to the transaction fees. Additionally, Ergo supports light clients. So Ergo has various techniques that allow very lightweight clients, similar to what SPV clients in Bitcoin have. But instead of SPV, these clients will give you full node security. So, and it also has something called NIPAPOs, which allow very compact proofs to about states of the blockchain. So I'll not go into too many details. In fact, these are not related, so we don't need to discuss this. Let me discuss what's a UTXO, right? Without referring to Ergo for now. This is just a UTXO in any blockchain, say Bitcoin. So a UTXO is basically an immutable box, yeah, and nodes keep a set of UTXOs. So the blockchain ensures the nodes are in sync. Every node has the same set of UTXO if they have the same blockchain height. So the blockchain ensures, the protocol ensures that the nodes have the consistent UTXO set, right? And what is a UTXO set? You can think of it as a bag of boxes, and the box is a UTXO, right? So each box has unique ID. So a transaction removes several boxes from the bag and adds some new boxes to the bag. The boxes that are removed are called the inputs, and the boxes that are added are called the outputs. And the scripts in the inputs must be evaluated to true. Only then the transaction is valid, right? Another thing to note is that the boxes in a bag cannot be changed, so they can only be added and removed. And in case we want to emulate a box that is changed, we just create a new box with the same properties, right? So even though the box is getting created and destroyed, it behaves as if it is in the box for a long time. Yeah? So this diagram shows how UTXOs look in multiple transactions, right? The last diagram showed how a single transaction manipulates UTXOs. Here we see how multiple transactions are linked using UTXOs, right? So one thing we can observe is that the input of one transaction is the output of some other transaction. For example, this box, the input of this transaction is generated as an output of this transaction, right? And every such input is actually an output of some other transaction, right? And the dash boxes represent unspent boxes, while the boxes with thick lines represent spent outputs, right? So we can see that some outputs are spent and the others are still unspent. So these are in the bag, while these are removed from the bag. And let's look a bit more detail into what a UTXO of Ergo looks like, right? So this is what an Ergo box or a UTXO looks like. A box has 10 registers numbered R0 to R9, and the first 4 of these R0 to R3 are mandatory. Basically, they are reserved for protocols. The protocol data, they are as follows, right? The first register contains the nanoworks. This is the primary token, how many primary tokens it has, or the native currency. And the second second register has the guard script. So for example, it could say that the signature of some public key X must be provided when spending the box. The third box has the creation info, basically, which is basically unique to the box. And we will not be too much concerned with this as long as we know that it's going to be there. So we will not be using this in our protocols right now. R3 contains assets, basically, which are a sequence of token ID amount pairs. And token ID is a 32 byte value, while amount is a long number, a non-zero value. So R3 can be empty if the box doesn't have any assets, or it can be have some one or more pairs if the box has assets. The other registers R4 to R9 are optional, and they can have data for our smart contracts, right? We can always use the other R0 to R3 in our smart contracts as well, but we can use these two other registers to store our own data as and when needed. So where are they actually coming from, right? Each transaction can issue at most one asset. It need not issue an asset, but if it wants, it can issue at most one asset, right? And this asset is a token ID. The token ID of this asset is the first input box's ID. So the transaction that issues it will have one or more inputs, right? At least one input will be there, and the first input's box ID will be the ID of the issued asset, right? So since each box is unique, so each asset ID is also unique, and the amount can be arbitrary. So you can issue as many assets as you want. And NFT is simply an asset that's issued in a single quantity, right? So we can check the blockchain and see that it is issued only a single amount of that token is issued. Then it is an NFT. And NFT is used for authenticating boxes. So for example, if we want to authenticate a certain box, anybody can create a copy of the box, right? But if it contains a certain NFT, right, then we can be sure that it is the authentic box because it was issued in quantity 1, right? So imposter box cannot have that. Yeah, it is only in the genuine box, right? That's the assumption we'll make in a lot of our protocols. So moving on. Earlier I showed you how a transaction looks like, right? See, a transaction basically has a set of inputs and a set of outputs. So the inputs are the boxes that are removed, and the outputs are the boxes that are added. Ergo transaction is slightly more advanced, right? So it has these inputs and outputs as before, but it also has something called data inputs, right? Which are additionally read-only boxes, right? So recall that the script in the inputs is executed, right? So, and these boxes are destroyed. So they are removed from the bag, and whatever the code inside the script is must evaluate to true for the transaction to be valid. This is not so in the data inputs, right? So like inputs, the data inputs must exist in the bag, but they are not destroyed. So they are basically taken from the bag and put in the bag, you can assume. And the script in this is also not executed, right? So these are just used for reading their registers, but you don't really need to, you don't execute the scripts. You just take the data from them and use it for in your protocol, right? And then they have the outputs. The transaction has outputs as before, right? Similar to other UTXO systems. So moving on, how does Ergo stablecoin transaction look like, right? So Ergo stablecoin transaction looks as follows, right? It has 2 input boxes, 1 data input box, and 3 output boxes, right? So let's first discuss the types of boxes in a exchange transaction, right? So in a stablecoin exchange transaction, will exchange either redeem or purchase either stablecoin or reserve coin, right? So I'll get to that in a minute, but let's first discuss the types of boxes that we have, right? So the first is a bank box. So this is the existing bank box. This is the one that is going to be destroyed, and this is a copy of the bank box which will be created, right? So it will preserve all the things we need, and it will change only certain things. So this is the bank box. Then there is this funding box. So the funding box contains it is not really part of the protocol. It contains any additional assets, basically the native tokens or the secondary tokens that are needed, that are deficient, right? So for example, if our protocol needs this input has 10 UGs, and this output has the sum of these outputs is 20 UGs. So this additional 10 UGs will come from the funding box, right? So any deficient tokens or nano UGs will be from the funding box, right? So every transaction that we have will assume to have a funding box if there is any shortage of funds. Similarly, there will be always a fee box which pays the transaction fee, the mining fee, and sometimes we will show this box, sometimes will not. But we'll always assume that this is there, yeah, because without this the transaction won't be mined. So fee box is necessary, and then this receipt box, yeah, this is the box of part of the protocol. So this receipt box contains the details of the purchases, right? It contains the how much information about how many stablecoin tokens have exchanged. It also contains any deficient, any purchased stablecoins or any redeemed ERGs, right? It will contain these extra assets as well. And then there is this Oracle pool box, which is basically the box that we use to get the rate from. So notice that it is part of the data input because we don't really need to execute it, and we don't have the ability to execute it. In fact, the script in this box cannot be executed by every transaction. In fact, it has a very special script. So we are only going to use this as a data input, right? It will contain in its register R4 the value that we need. And let's look at the number of the types of transactions that we have. Yeah, we have 4 types of transactions in our exchange. So one is the purchase stablecoins, where the funding box has any ERGs that we have to give to the bank, and the receipt box will have the SC tokens that we take from the bank. Yeah, we purchase from the bank. The other is the redeem stablecoin transaction, where the funding box has the SC tokens that we want to give to the bank. We want to redeem those tokens, and the receipt box will contain the ERGs that we get in exchange for those tokens. Then we have the purchase reserve coin transaction and the redeem reserve coin transaction, which is similar to the earlier transaction but applied to reserve coins. So what is the Oracle pool box, right? This is the box that contains the rate. Let's look at this box in a bit more detail. Note that this is a data input and the script will not be executed. So it contains the following tokens. It contains the NFT that uniquely identifies this Oracle, right? We call this Oracle pool NFT, and its quantity is 1. So in the third register, in the fourth register, R3, it stores this NFT. And then it has 4 additional registers, R4, R5, R6. R4 will have the rate that we need, yeah, and R5, R6 will have some data that we don't need in our protocol, so it's not relevant to us. It will have some data that we don't care for now. What does the bank box look like? So bank box looks as follows. This box, first of all, this box will be the input to the transaction. So the script will be executed, right? So whatever the script it contains, the bank script, it will be executed. It has the following tokens. So it has the bank NFT that uniquely identifies the bank box. So nobody can impersonate the bank and cheat somebody, because the NFT is must exist, yeah. And if we check for the NFT, then we know that the box is authentic. The other tokens will be the SC tokens that it wants to emit. It wants to give to other users, and the RC tokens it wants to give to users in exchange for ERGs, and in certain quantity, right? So here I have given some numbers as an example. It also will have 2 registers. R4 will have the RC, the stablecoin in circulation, current stablecoin in circulation. That's a long value. And R5 will have the current reserve coin in circulation, also as a long value. Finally, the monetary value of the box, the native number of nano ERGs, the native tokens, will be considered the base reserves, right? So that's what a bank box looks like. Finally, what does the receipt box looks like, right? Receipt box is as follows. So it will be owned by the user who issues the transaction, right? Let's say the user's name, user is Alice, identified the public key, and it contains the following tokens, right? So it contains the RC or SC tokens that have been purchased in case it is a purchase transaction. It contains R4 register. R4 contains the delta in SC or RC. So if it is a purchase transaction, then this will be a positive value, and if it is a redeem transaction, then this will be a negative value. And R5 contains the delta in bank reserves, yeah, the base currency bank of the bank. And the monetary value of the box will contain any redeemed nano ERGs. right? So if it is a redeem transaction, then it will contain the RANOVs that were redeemed from the token. So let's look at the BankBox contract in a bit more detail, right? So the contract is stored in R1 of the BankBox, and it has the following conditions at a high level, right? Remember the rule that we had for exchange, the algorithm we had. So we are going to implement that using the bank script. So the bank script has the following requirements, right? So that it first of all, it says that it has to be the first box in the transaction, right? First input in the transaction. The bank box has to be the first input in the transaction, right? And the first output of the transaction should be a copy of the bank box, right? Where the bank NFT and the script are the same. So the script and the NFT value must be preserved, and the rest of the token will be updated as per the formula. Yeah. So if it is a SC exchange transaction, then this value will be updated and this value will be the same, will be preserved, and base reserve will be always change. Yeah, because this will be the delta in this. There will be some change in base reserve whenever there is a redeem or exchange of any type. Similarly, the value of if it is a SC exchange, and this value will change and this value will be preserved. Otherwise, it will be the opposite of that. So these R4 and R5 contain the stable coins in circulation and reserve coins in circulation, and these will be updated as per the exchange. The other requirement of the bank contract is the second output, right? This second output must be the receipt box, and the receipt box contains the information that we used for calculating the formula, right? So R4 of the receipt box will be the delta of the tokens exchange, either SC or RC tokens, and R5 will be the delta in the base reserves, right? And we will require that R5, the delta in base reserve contained in the receipt box, matches the delta in base reserve as per the formula of the exchange, right? That will be the requirement. And the data input, there will be only one data input, the first data input. That should be the Oracle pool box, which gives the ERG-USD rate, and this is identified by the Oracle pool NFT ID. This NFT ID is also hardwired in the bank box. And we'll assume that R4 of this Oracle pool box contains the rate that we need. The following are the exchange rules. So only one of the tokens can be exchanged in one transaction. So you can't exchange both SC and RC tokens at the same time. You can either exchange RC tokens or you can exchange SC tokens at a time. And the SC rate, RC rate is determined using the formula that I described in the beginning. The only missing piece was the ERG-USD rate, which we now have from the Oracle pool, the R4 of the Oracle pool box. And the base reserve delta is based on the SC rate and the RC rate as per the formulas. And additionally, there is a fee in base currency added to the delta, base reserve delta, right? And there is another condition that the final reserve ratio must be between some minimum maximum value. In this example, I have shown the minimum as 400 and the maximum is 800, but these are just some values and you can have some different values as well, yeah. So the details of this final reserve ratio for this, please refer to the documentation of the stablecoin, yeah, why we have this this max and min reserve ratio. So let me summarize what this Agenor USD stablecoin contract is, or ERG-USD stablecoin contract is. So there is a single box which has the NFT that emulates the bank box, that emulates the bank. This is called the bank box, and it contains the unminted SC and RC tokens, and its register also contains the SC and RC in circulation, right? And then its smart contract contains the rules for exchange I had described earlier, right? And there is an Oracle pool box used as data input that contains the external rate in ERG-USD. And anybody can spend the bank box. We call this an exchange transaction, as long as the rules of the exchange are followed. And the rules additionally to the exchange rules are that the receipt box contains the tokens exchange, and the receipt box register hold the delta in the tokens. And the new box is created with the NFT and balance tokens as per the formula. So this kind of summarizes how the ERG-USD works. In the next talk, I'll discuss how we can update this contract, right? So for example, just looking at this contract, suppose we now have this final reserve ratio, right, after the exchange. What this means is that after the exchange, right, whenever we buy RC tokens, so this is applicable only to certain exchanges, not to all exchanges, right? For example, this is not applicable to redeem stable coins, but this is applicable to redeem RC and purchase RC, right? So what this means is that the final ratio, the final reserve ratio must be between 400 and 800%, right? And suppose we decide that, okay, 800 is too low, right? We want to make it 900, right? So we want to update the contract and change this value, right? But the problem is that the smart contract requires the script to be preserved, right? Recall that the script must be preserved, right? So now we cannot, it's kind of fixed forever, right? So we want to be able to update this, right? So in the next talk, I'll discuss how we can achieve updation of this contract. And yeah, so that kind of summarizes the introduction to ERG USD stablecoin. Thanks.